visiting with us tonight. I want to say thank you for visiting, and I hope you enjoy your time here with us as we worship the Lord. I also want to thank everyone, especially the elders and just everyone here for giving me the opportunity to be up here. My goal is to just grow and grow to be the best servant that I can be, and I think that'll come to me the more and more chances I get to speak and just practice at doing that. But I also want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to go on this trip, the elders and everyone here. And for those who don't know, over break from the 14th to the 21st of December, I got to go on a mission trip to Jamaica. So my goal tonight is just to inform you on what happened in that trip and show you the result of that trip, the good that came out of that trip, and just let that be an encouragement to all of us. And I hope that what I show you tonight, you'll be able to grow just as much as I did from being on the trip. So honestly, we went on this trip with the intent of bringing people closer to Christ as always, and being a help and an aid to the Jamaican Christians who are there as of right now. So I'm going to jump right in with showing you the leadership and the group. There are about 16 of us who went on this trip, 3 adults and 13 college students. Our guidance and our leadership were David and Flora Tant, and then their daughter Shannon Simpson. The Tants are over here. I don't know if I was familiar with them, and this is Miss Shannon right here. The Tants have gone to Jamaica plenty of times. This is, I believe, the 35th trip to Jamaica, and this, I believe, is Miss Shannon's 9th trip to Jamaica. They are very, very familiar with the people there. They've gone there countless times. They've done a lot of trips over the summer, having Bible studies with these people. And, we came there the 8th and this time, but they've gone plenty of times to just do what they can, helping them out financially and just providing the physical labor they need. And so they've helped them plenty of times, had many studies with them, and just gotten to know these people. Even when they go home, they stay in constant contact with these people. So they knew the area very well, and they knew the people there very well. And so while we were there on the trip, they were able to be leaders and guides to us, and they watched us on this trip. Also, just a side note, I believe everyone on the trip either was a current student or previously a student at FC. Miss Shannon and the Tants, all of us have gone to FC at one point. So I'm going to split up the trip into 2 different instances, and being the locations that we were at. The first part of our trip was in Montego Bay. It's a very populated area, very kind of a metropolitan kind of area because it's a very big tourist spot. Jamaica has a lot of, suffers from a lot of poverty, but it is also a very beautiful place, so it's a big vacation spot. But this is us. This is some of us from the group, and a lot of children of the members of the congregation there who were helping us do some work in the area. But when we came to Montego Bay, the first person who greeted us was Maxwell. Maxwell is in both of these pictures. She's right here and right here. Maxwell is the minister, he's the preacher at what I believe is the only non-institutional Church of Christ in Montego Bay. He's been preaching for about 20 years, and he, on the side, is also a taxi driver. He supports himself through driving a taxi. And from what he told us, as of right now, 50% of his profits go straight into the church. He spends 50% of what he makes to help support the church in whatever way that he can. He also uses his taxi to transport the members there to worship on Friday nights. They have their Bible studies on Friday nights, and he also uses his taxi to transport them to worship on Sundays. And for those who need it, he uses his taxi to transport them to work as well. But when talking to him, he says that he does what he does because he loves the people, he loves God, and he believes this is what God wants him to do. So he was there, and he was a big help to us, and he was a big encouragement to all of us. So the church that he ministers is St. James Church of Christ. They currently worship I believe they rent a small room in someone else's building on Church Street. That's where all the churches are. And they're in the process of moving into a bigger building. So what we were doing while we were in Montego Bay was helping them renovate that building. This is I pictured up here the inside of it and the front of it. This is before any work has been done to it. We just went there to do what we can. We did a lot of painting and a lot of renovating the land around it and outside of it. So this is it when we first kind of came to it, and this is us working on it. See, some of us are like moving rocks and land to kind of like level it out on the sides, and we are also painting the insides of the building, renovating it in any way that we can inside and outside. But one of the members of the congregation, also something you should know, St. James Church of Christ and a lot of other congregations in Jamaica, the congregation, the large majority of it are women. St. James Church of Christ had 3 older men there. The rest of the body was women and children. And so they were really overjoyed to have us there to assist them and aid them in service. A lot of us, were helping by giving Bible study, or giving a sermon, or song leading, or praying, and the like. But one of the women that we met was Jody. Jody is a single mom, and she mothers 4 children, I believe. But her problem, what she's suffering from, is she lives in the slums, and she lives in a small shack. And that small shack has, the roofing on it is metal sheets, very old metal sheets. And when it would rain, water would trickle through the ceiling. So they'd have to arrange their beds and move their beds so that the water wouldn't come down and wet their beds. So while we were there, what we were trying to do was renovate that ceiling for her. And we split our labor. While some of us were at the church building renovating that, some were at her house renovating her ceiling or her roof. And I was really impressed with what I saw, because I thought they were just going to put new metal sheets on the top, but they went above and beyond in building new supports for this roof, and then which you can see in the pictures there, and then putting new sheets on it. And so obviously it's a brand new roof, and it's much better than the one that she had before. And in this way, when it rained, rain would just slide right off the roof. So I knew that was a big help to her, and a help to her family, and just a way that she was able to see she was able to see the God through any way that He can bring blessings to her. Another thing that we did while we were in Montego Bay was visit an infirmary there, St. James Infirmary. And it's supposed to be a hospital, but it felt more like it was a nursing home. A lot of people were there because they were suffering from a long, a permanent illness, and it seemed like they didn't have a lot of people there for them. So while we were there, we came to visit with them and just talked to them. We read Bible verses to these people and sung with them. Just gave them company, and it brought joy to them to just have someone give them the light of day, just have someone care about them. And this picture specifically is Mr. Edmund. You guys can meet Mr. Edmund, and had a really good conversation with him. He's a really funny man. I think you can see just by looking at the photos the amount of joy in his face just from having someone be there for him, having someone care about him. So the next part of our trip, the first part of our trip was in Montego Bay. The second part of it was in Savannah, Lamar. We stayed in Savannah, Lamar, and the church that we ate at there was called Cave Church of Christ. And they were in the cave, and we stayed close to them in the town of Savannah, Lamar. And so while we were there, we ate at St. James Church of Christ in Montego Bay, but then in Savannah, Lamar, we ate at Cave Church of Christ. So we got to, just like at the other congregation, we got to worship with them and aid in their services, just like the previous congregation. A large part of the body was older women and children, and not a lot of men. And so, I don't know if you can see here, but that's Jared, song leading there. And another one of the students from FC gave the sermon that day. Another one led the Bible class. It's a picture of me praying there. We all just helping out in the service in any way that we can. But through the rest of the week, after worshiping with them, we proceeded to renovate their building just like we did the other one. We painted the outsides and the insides and tried to make the outside look better in any way that we can. This is it as we were starting out before, and then this is what it looked like when we were done. This is the outside, and this is pictures of the inside. Another one of the people that we got to meet while we were there is a member of the Cave Church of Christ, is Jude Althea. Jude is a self-taught chef, I asked him. And from what I was told, he makes the best food that any of the missionaries have ever had when they visited Jamaica. He just comes from a very rough background, he's built himself up to where he is now. He's one of the more stable families and stable Christians of the congregation there. Him and his wife, I believe, parent, I want to say 6 children, and have built their own farm where they are. But this is a picture of all the food that Jude made for us. He came and treated us at his house to a lot of food and jerk chicken, and that was another way we could help him, is through paying him for his generosities, helping his family. But one of the things that Jude and Althea struggled with was when they weren't at home, when they would go off to worship, people would come and steal things from their farm all the time. And so what they had to start doing was that part of the family would have to stay at home while the other part of the family would go to worship, because they would worry about people taking from their farm. So to Jude's request, one of the things we did while we were there was install a security camera to watch his house while they were gone. He'd gone to the authorities to get help from them to prevent people from stealing from their farm, but they wouldn't take anything he said to heart unless they had physical proof. But now they do, and he's responded to us and texted us about how much of a big help that has been to him. He's a lot of strength for the family. Now they're all able to go to worship together. Okay, these are pictures from a memorial service that we also attended while we were there. One of the very strong, stable Christians in the area was a man named Mullen. Mullen, from what I was told, was an electrician, I believe an electrician of some sort, in Jamaica. And one day when he was working, he fell off of a home, fell off a building, fell off of wherever he was working on top of, and injured himself and became a quadriplegic. He couldn't move any of his limbs. But from what I was told, despite having to suffer from something so badly, he still brought joy to people around him and always had a smile on his face. And not only was he a strong Christian, but just a great person to know. When talking to people who had previously gone on the trips, he was just one of the people that they say, this is someone that you have to meet. But he passed away shortly before we ever got to meet him. He passed away before we got to go on the trip. And so while we were there, we went to his memorial service and got to meet his family and comfort them in any way that we could. And so that was just another way that we were able to aid Christians there, aid people in need there. Got to meet his mother, who was having a really hard time with this. We were just able to help them and comfort them in any way that they need. But I'll go ahead and quickly want to wrap this up by, again, showing you just the good and the good that came out of this trip and the result that came out of this trip. But in this picture is Mullen's father. While the memorial was a very sad event, there was good that came out of it. His father left the event saying that he wanted to one day see his son again. And obviously his son was huge enough of an example to him for him to believe. And he got baptized that day after the memorial. And so I want to look at Luke 15, chapter 15, verse 7, where it says, "Just so, I tell you, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who need no repentance." I wanted to bring light to this because I think obviously, like I was saying, there was a lot of good that came out of this trip, but there's a lot of joy just coming from such a sad event, a lot of joy that came out of it. And I think if you look at this picture, there's so much beauty in it and so much of God. And I just, again, just wanted to show the good that came out of this trip. And I'll just say that letting everyone know that time was well spent, because you can say that we at least saved one soul while we were there. But one other thing I wanted to bring up was how much spiritual and social growth came out of the trip for me and everybody else who went on. We got to talk to and meet a lot of people, and while a lot of these people were new Christians, so there's a lot that we could teach them, but at the same time, there's a lot that we learned from the Jamaicans themselves. And one of those things is that they never complain. There's a phrase that I heard recurring over and over again, is that the Jamaicans never complain. Obviously, we were there and got to compare our lives to them and see that we lived in a condition that was much better than theirs, but you never heard them complaining about anything. Exodus chapter 16 is where Moses talks to the Israelites about their complaining. He tells them that the Lord would feed them meat by the twilight and bread by the morning. He'd fill their stomachs, but yet they still complain. The Israelites would still complain against God. And I think we do the same thing. I think we live very privileged lives, and obviously can say that we come from a better background than some of the Jamaicans. But I think I can speak for all of us and say that when I say that we still complain. But the Jamaicans never do. And that brought me, I think that brought a lot of humility to all of us, to just see how humble they were, and see how much gratitude they had, yet despite their situations. For instance, Jody and her children, when you visited them in the shack and you walked in, they were smiling and playing. And, whilst you realized it was a shack in the slums, it smelled bad, it was small, it was cramped, they were happy with what they had and felt blessed just from their current situation. Same with Marlon. Marlon was a quadriplegic and couldn't move, yet he always still had a smile on his face. That's what he would use, the muscles that he could still use to smile and bringing joy to the people around him, just being content with what he had. And I think that was a big thing that we could learn from them. But even more so, talking about spiritual and social growth. Philippians chapter 4, verse 13 says, "I can do all things through him who strengthens me." And I think that's what this trip did to me. I think I was strengthened. I think Christ strengthened me through going on this trip. Which also leads me on to one of the biggest things that I learned on the trip. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14 says, "Let all that you do be done in love." That's one of the biggest things I learned on the trip, was that's the way you evangelize. That's the way that you bring people to Christ, is through love. I was slowly more and more breaking out of my shell. Each day I would tell myself, you have to talk to this person, you have to open up to this person, you have to really work at doing your best to reach out and touch these people. And I think you can see it. I wanted to pull up some photos just of some of the people, of us working and some people that we were helping out there. And you can just see the joy on their faces from us being there with them, and from us, helping them, bringing all the aid that we could, and helping improve their lives in any way that we can. But again, love. I feel like that was the best way to evangelize these people and bring them closer to Christ and help them see God, not only in Jamaica, but from the U.S. It's seeing God everywhere. It was through love. We're able to touch these people by just being open with them and being genuine with them, and just talking with them. And despite coming from two different places and coming from different backgrounds, being able to communicate in one language and share the same belief that Jesus died on the cross for all of us. So that's just the information and the things I wanted you guys to see tonight, and I wanted you to see the good and the result that came out of the trip and all the good people that we got to meet. And again, I hope that everyone here is as encouraged as I was from the trip, and that you can see there was a lot of growth in us and me and people there from this trip. I hope you get a more growth, or just as much growth can come out of it to you guys. But if anyone is encouraged by this message and feels like they'd like to be baptized tonight, or they, like Mullen's father, wants their soul saved and wants God to rejoice over them being a part of the family, I ask that you come to the front, to together stand and sing a communion prayer.